What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today we have a very exciting knife review slash knife overview to do with you guys. This is the brand new Rick Hinderer 3-inch Eclipse. Oh my goodness, I am so excited about this. This knife, I reached out to Scott Whittington here recently from USA Made Blade. By the way, if you've never shopped at USA Made Blade, you can see there www.usamadeblade.com. If you have never shopped with them, you should. They have an awesome variety of USA Made knives, as you would expect, but they're also a huge supplier of Hinderer knives, and sometimes they do exclusives. They have a bunch of cool stuff there. I've been shopping with them for way before I even started this channel. Scott is a really, really great guy. So if you have never checked them out, check them out. I'm not getting anything for this. I reached out to them to ask for some knives to review. I'm not getting any sort of payment, and I don't get to receive the knives. I'm legitimately suggesting that you shop there because I think they're great. Anyways, this is a brand new Hinderer model. For those of you who are wondering, it is a tri-way system. That means that it does come with all the hardware that you would need to swap out what's currently installed as bearings. But for those of you who don't know, Hinderer has a tri-way pivot system, meaning that you can have bearings, which is what's installed. You can also have phosphor bronze or nylon if you choose. The steel ones are the spacers that would be required to make up for the space, the extra space that's required for the bearings. If you were to switch them out, you can put the spacers in, then put the washers of your choice on top of that. So, for anybody who's like, Hinderer uses nylon, I'm like, that's old. That's a long time ago, guys. I can't believe we still have people saying that. Hinderer stopped doing exclusively nylon a long time ago. That's done. The tri-way system is awesome. These, of course, flip incredibly well now. They have awesome nearly fall shut action. The detents are perfect. Yeah, so just old arguments are all dead. Even the slicing that people still say, some Hinderers don't cut. Hinderer offers blade thickness anywhere from 112 thousandths all the way up to 187 thousandths. So depending on what you're trying to cut and how often you use your knife and what style of blade you like, I guarantee you Hinderer has a blade style and thickness. Given that they offer 8+ different blade styles, basically the entire spectrum of what you would ask reasonably of your folding knife is taken care of in the Hinderer lineup. I feel compelled to say that because I am just shocked that some people, still think this or just don't. If you don't know, that's not your fault, but now you know. Anyways, so this knife was provided for review by Mr. Scott Whittington, so thank you very much for that. I have no idea where I'm at for subscribers because this is pre-recorded, but I know I'm almost to 5,000. If you are not subscribed to my channel, I like to do knife reviews and knife overviews such as the one you're seeing here. I like to do unboxings. I like to do discussion topics. I have a Quest for the Perfect Budget Knife series on Saturdays and a Knife Guy series on Sundays. Basically what I'm saying is I upload every day. If you like daily knife content, this might be the channel for you. So go ahead and hit subscribe and make sure your notifications are set to all so that you can be ready when I release new content. I have a ton of content coming this weekend if I hit 5,000 subscribers. A bunch of cool stuff pre-recorded, some giveaway stuff, and some other cool stuff. So hopefully I'm almost there. Anyways, let's go ahead and get a measurement on this guy. 3 minutes and 35 seconds into it. Overall length on the 3-inch Hinderer Eclipse coming in at 7.5 inches overall. Just under. It's like 7.4. Pretty cool. How about the blade length? We have 3 1/4. So for those of you hoping, like, is this going to be legal? Is it going to be under 3 inches? No, it's not. But they went ahead. They went for it. So you get about 3 1/4 inch blade. The cutting edge is just shy of 3 inches. You're actually looking at about 2.9 inches there, given the generous sharpening choil. So for legality, issues in some places, that's not going to be ideal. But they went ahead. A lot of times, it really kind of bothers me when it's right there on the edge. Like they made it exactly 3 inches. Like why didn't you just go 2.9? But it's substantially over. So he knew exactly what he was doing there. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons here. Up against the Ontario Rat Model 1, Rat 1 coming in at 8.6 inches overall, so you can see there it is substantially longer, though I will give you a look this way. Hinderers are notoriously robust knives, so you can see there the Hinderer 3-inch. This particular one, this Eclipse 3-inch, is more robust. It is substantially more robust than the standard 3-inch XM18, for those of you who are wondering, but I don't have one here to show as an example, unfortunately. Up against the Spyderco PM2. PM2 coming in at 8.3 inches overall. How about up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue? Ritter Hogue coming in at 8 inches overall. And last but not least, Spyderco Para 3. Para 3 coming in at 7.25 inches overall. This is a great size comparison. The Hinderer 3-inch harpoon is just a little bit longer than the Para 3. Very, surprisingly similar profile. Not exactly the same, but in terms of the carry profile, aside from the flipper tab, you're looking at a fairly similar design. Let me go ahead and give you an example of the action here. This is brand new and is like wiggle shut, but it's very smooth. The action is ridiculously snappy. Even for a Gen 6 XM18, you hear that? Let me be quiet for a second so you can hear this. Click, click. Oh, that's awesome. It feels good. It sounds good. The solidity of it, it has that clicky detent that we all like. Let me show you here. Oh, it's crispy. Very nice. Very nice. It actually, I'm hesitant to say, feels a little bit better than my Gen, I've only got 2 XMs right now, but I got a Gen 6 fatty flipper, and this feels awesome. But that one feels a little better. Oh, my other one's a non-flipper, so I can't really compare it. But, oh man, crispy. That's awesome. I love that. Let me go ahead and weigh this guy for you guys real quick. Oh yeah, Laura, let's do the blade stock thickness. So I'm going to guess that this is about 145 thousandths. But my calipers are not the most reliable calipers in the world, so we'll do some visual comparisons as well as some actual measurements. Yeah, okay, 140 thousandths. It's probably about 145 thousandths, which means it's probably about the same thickness as a PM2. Yep. Okay, so a standard XM18 3-inch originally, I believe, was 145 thousandths. Now they make a skinny version of the 3-inch XM18 in 125 thousandths, and then their thinnest blade is the Slippy at 112 thousandths. So this is on the smaller side overall, but still carries the robustness, if that's a word, of a larger knife. I think that's a very appropriate thickness given what this is and the category of knife this is, which is going to be tactical, small and compact, but still hard use. And I will give my case for that in just a moment. What do we need to do? Oh yeah, weigh it. We need to weigh it. This is a Hinderer, guys. If you're not a part of my channel and you don't know, I am a massive Hinderer fan. So you're going to get a lot of enthusiasm, you're going to get a lot of detail in this review, but just understand there's going to be a little bit of bias because Hinderer is my absolute favorite maker, and I am constantly singing his praises. So yeah, there's going to be a little bias here, but I'm also going to point out stuff that's absolutely good and not so good about this knife. Weight on the 3-inch Eclipse coming in at 4.25 ounces. Not bad. Heavier than a lot of people like to carry for a knife in general, and heavier than a lot of people like to carry for a smaller knife, that's for sure. 4.27 ounces. What you have here is G10 on top, it's titanium underneath. You can see there it's not a frame lock in the traditional Hinderer sense where you've got the frame lock on one side. No, you actually do have a G10 scale. I don't know if I would still call this a frame lock with G10 overlays, just given how thick they are, but a lot of people would call this a liner lock. I don't know that matters. You guys can see how it functions and what's responsible for creating that excess weight. No issues there. Let's go ahead and talk about the anatomy of this knife. We have Hinderer's traditional harpoon drop point blade. I'll show you how that compares with the Spanto. It's very similar to the Spanto, except that the Spanto, oh wait, nope, all I have is a spear point. I forget because I have so many Hinderers. So here's a standard XM18 spear point, and you can see there how the grind differs. The flat is much more robust, much taller. It drops towards the cutting edge much later, making it probably a lot thicker behind the edge than the standard spear point. But it's going to be very similar to the Spanto, except that you have these this notch up here. So you have a very large swedge, but in terms of how thick it remains out to the tip, I mean, in terms of tip strength, you're not going to break that tip. You'd have to be doing something ridiculous with this knife. Well, you might look at that and think it looks rounded off. No, it's definitely sharp and pointy. I'm still getting my finger caught there. It's just how it's ground. Very thick, very robust tip. Very beautiful. Completely ground completely symmetrical. I mean, I've never had an issue with Hinderer knives and how they look, down at the edge, how they feel down at the edge in terms of whether or not they come with nicks or rose. They always come that perfect glassy smoothness you feel on a perfectly sharpened edge. It's just beautiful. Amazing chamfering all the way around. You can see it there. The quality of that chamfering. You're like, God, this guy really is a Hinderer fan. Listen to him gush. Seriously, guys, these blades are done professionally. They're beautiful. Absolutely. So there's how they differ, that I guess against the spear point. I'll show you the standard thickness of an XM18 versus the 3-inch harpoon. This is 165 thousandths. This is probably 145 thousandths. And here's how they look down to the tip. In terms of the absolute tip, I mean, yeah, you're looking at a very robust short knife here, absolutely. Standard XM18 seem to be coming in 20 CV. Hinderer likes to use S35VN and 20 CV. He also uses 3V. In a recent run of XM18 3.5-inch harpoon spantos in the 3.5-inch models. Sorry, my fluctuation in my voice didn't emphasize the right part of that. The XM18 3.5 inches, he ran it in S35VN, and everybody was like, I thought you moved or upgraded to 20 CV. And Hinderer did a response video, I think on the Facebook group, saying, listen, I know a lot of you guys like 20 CV, and I'm not going to stop using it. It's a great blade steel, but I have a lot of, actual field use response from people who are actually going out and using my knives. Yeah, believe it or not, people do go out and use these, and they are proven day after day after day to be excellent hard use knives. These are not knives that people just, there's a lot of people like me who just buy them and put them in a display case and never use them. I have some Hinderer users, or have had some in the past, but of the 23 that I've owned, most of them have just been safe queens. But yeah, there's plenty of proof out there. If you don't believe me, go be a part of the Facebook collectors group. There are pictures of people who have absolutely beaten their Hinderers into the ground. These stand up. It's not a question of do they stand. They do. It's been answered. There's lots of videos out there, lots of pictures of Hinderers being used. They've been around for a long time. It's pretty definitive. But he said I have really great reports of actual use in terms of S35VN. So I like to offer it every now and then. So sometimes, a lot of the newer Hinderers are going to come in 20 CV, which everybody loves and everybody has up on a pedestal, and I love it too, but S35VN is an amazing steel. And I myself have said, and honestly, I probably should have thought about this. In past videos I've said, for this much money, I really would have preferred 20 CV or S35VN. S35VN is not in how I would categorize, when I really thought about it, categorize as sub-premium. It is absolutely premium. It's just a different composition than 20 CV. It's a composition that is more well-rounded in terms of overall toughness. It's still very stainless. Not quite as stainless as 20 CV, but definitely tougher. Doesn't have quite the edge retention of 20 CV, but if I understand correctly, because of its composition and where it's optimally hardened to, it has better edge stability. So in terms of a usage situation where you're going to be beating on it a little bit harder than you would a regular knife, S35VN is, as I've said before, probably a better choice. Probably. I don't know. I don't use my knives hard enough, but there's plenty of evidence out there to support what I'm saying. Anyways, it sounds like I think that I know what I'm talking about, but just understand, I don't use my knives hard enough to be able to definitively say. I try to be very clear about that. I want you guys to know where you're getting this information while I'm giving a slightly biased review to a knife, that's made by somebody who I just think is like the greatest maker in the world. But anyways, blade shape, I love this. This is it's one of my favorite, if not my absolute favorite blade shapes from Rick Hinderer. I guess what I was getting at is that this particular one is an S35VN. You might see 3-inch harpoons in the future that are in 20 CV. These are in S35VN right now. But anyways, this blade shape and this finish, this is my absolute favorite finish from Rick Hinderer knives. Their standard tumbling, I think it looks great. And this might be my favorite blade shape of all time. Beautiful. I love how they do USA S35VN and the Rick Hinderer logo, and that's it. It's perfect. I don't need anything else on there. It looks great. Like I said, large sharpening choil. You do have thumb studs that are absolutely functional. And can we get the reverse flick on this guy? Yes, you can. I can absolutely reverse flick it. How am I doing it? Even with a heavy D10, I'm using the meat of my finger up underneath that. And while it is a little bit difficult, I'm pushing that way. Same thing with the thumb studs. You kind of have to push more up and then over. And it will, well, not really. That's a bad example. It's kind of here and then here. Because of the direction of the thumb stud as it comes out, you can see where I'm following it. It's coming here. So that's about where you're wanting to push. However, the flipper tab is optimally designed to allow that to flip readily. And you'll notice that on this particular model, there's no sharp edges or jimping anywhere. And there's no jimping down here, so there's no issue with the landing zone. It's perfect. You can do this over and over and over again all day. There's no double clutch situation. It's very easy to deploy. And I mean, it's just perfect. I have no issues with the detent, the deployment. I mean, all this is a very fidgety knife. That's awesome. Somebody in the unboxing looked back here at the stop pin and went, "Oh my gosh, that stop pin is a joke. Look how tiny that stop pin is." First off, no, it isn't. That stop pin is no. I don't know that it's really a whole lot different than on the XM18s. I mean, here's the stop pin on the Fatty. The Fatty is larger, but not substantially. How about on the standard XM18? Is it any different? No, it's just a little tiny bit fatter. Okay. I would say stop pins on most knives are about the same size. How's the stop pin on the on this one here? Well, it's more of a standoff. It's a little bit more robust, a little bit shorter. For anybody who's looking at that going, yeah, it is a little bit smaller. Well, here's why that doesn't matter. Let me move these other XMs out of the way. This knife, like other XM18 designs, has an external stop pin as well. Now, in the past, the way that these are designed, it doesn't actually meet up. It looks like it does, but it actually does not contact that stop pin. That stop pin is there to actually stop the blade in the closed position. You see that groove right there underneath what would be the flipper tab? That's designed to meet up with the stop pin and stop it. It's a blade stop, right? They move that there from somewhere in the frame in the transition from generation 3 to generation 4. These actual stop pins on this knife are the lugs. That's why there's grooves cut out up here. That serves as a very strong stop pin and actually mitigates pressure away from the pivot when you're using your knife, you know, in a lateral force situation. Not that you should, but in that situation, it offers excess stability and durability. On this knife, you actually do have a stop pin that's met in the closed position and the open position. You can see there is actual rounding that's meant to contact that stop pin. But you also have the contact points from the external stop pins. That means there's 1, 2, 3 points of contact on this knife. That is completely overkill on a folding knife, but it's absolutely durable. Anybody who is concerned with that stop pin being a little bit smaller, rest assured, it's basically serving as a single point of contact amongst 3 total. In terms of stability on lockout, it is absolutely solid. Absolutely. That is an incredibly solid setup for a 3-inch blade. I have no issues with that whatsoever. You should not be concerned with the size of the stop pin. Moving on here, let's see. We have, to my surprise, it's actually peel ply G10 scales. Now I've got the 2 Hinders that I've got here are actually, they've got the titanium scales on them. But I'll show you here, the titanium scales on this guy and the titanium scales on this guy are basically titanium versions of the standard G10 texturing, and here's what that looks like. It's pretty aggressive, but it's not crazy. I mean, the backside of these knives never really tear up your pants because they're this smooth titanium. And other than a few odd models, you know, most Hinderer XM18s, whether they're 3-inch or they're 3.5-inch or any Hinderer models in general, have a smooth lock side. So they generally don't tear up your pants. This has peel ply texturing. It feels nice to the touch. It's not, you know, incredibly aggressive texturing. In and out of your pocket, though, because it is on both sides, over time, it is going to fray your pants a little bit, right? You can use this as an office carry knife. It's going to serve as a great EDC size no matter what your usage habits are. But they're designed more for outdoor hard use and just, you know, as a compact knife than they are a simple office carry knife. So In work pants, you're not going to care. If you're wearing nice khakis every day, it's fine. You can carry this knife, but it's probably going to tear up your pants a little bit. That's just the way that it's going to be. In terms of grip, it offers excellent traction. No issues there. There is jimping up top that is functional, but it's not going to bite into your fingers. A lot of people look at that, the inside of the grooves there, and they're like, why is that bronze or brassy colored right there? The 20 CV blades don't have that. It has something to do with the heat treatment on S35VN. The grooves just end up a sort of bronzy, brassy color. I think it looks kind of cool. I don't have an issue with that. But yeah, the jimping is great. Lots of nice traction points. The notch up there allows you to get your thumb behind the blade if you're going to do some more delicate cutting tests. There's no choil on a Eclipse. There's a little bit of space here, but I wouldn't risk it. You're probably going to end up cutting your finger. The hardware on this guy is domed versus, this is going to be a longer than normal review, guys. Sorry. It's domed versus the standard flat hardware. I do not know if the hardware is modular. I honestly don't know. I don't know if you could take these domed ones and put them in here. I'm not going to do that because this isn't my knife and it needs to go back to Scott in the same condition that he sent it to me. So I'm not going to mess with anything. I like how it looks. It's not 100% necessary, but it does look nice. The other side is also domed. Pretty cool. The screws, the handle screws are also domed, but unfortunately they are a different size. This is a T8 screw. It's actually a hex screw. And this is, I'm not 100% sure. I was looking in there trying to look at it. It might be hex. In fact, yeah, it kind of looks like it is hex, but it is that smaller size. I don't like that teeny tiny size. It makes it easier to strip out. Now, I know he uses a specific grade of steel for those screws. It's supposed to be really high quality. And if you have a high quality bit set, you're going to be okay. I still just don't like the small sized hardware. That's real. I mean, honestly, you guys can watch this video at the end if you want. That's one of my only complaints about this knife. I just don't like the size of hardware on that. I wish he had kept it the same as on the XM18. No big deal. Moving on here, I love the slight shadow boxing we have on the scales. What that does, the reason I like that is because when he starts offering the different colored anodized frames, or people who like to do aftermarket anodizing, will be able to see that contrast looking straight at it like this. You won't have to turn it this way to see that. You can see it straight on like that. So if this were blue or bronze or green or whatever, I think Scott actually has some, am I wrong, Scott? Do you have some examples of these that are different colors underneath? That's super cool. I love the way that he did that. It allows there to be some extreme beauty depending on what color of scales you have. This is a more typical, just a normal, just stone washed and OD green. But you know, you could imagine all the different setups you could have, and it'll contrast nicely with the inevitable aftermarket hardware that will be available for this, whether you want to do bronze titanium, blue titanium, whatever. It's nice. You'll be able to enjoy that contrast. So I think that's really, really cool. I like how he did this. Much better than the way the Maximus looks, or the scales on the ZT0393 that were clearly based on the Maximus, where they were like big hourglass cutouts and it just looked weird. This is much better. I really like that. Turning this way, you can see we have a couple of very Rick Hinderer standoffs. One up here, one down here. Should be very easy to clean out and offer some excellent strength. No issues there. You do still have jimping down here just to, I guess, just add grip when you're holding onto this knife. It does make sure, it does really lock in your pinky. You can see here that this is, it's not like the typical frame lock with the steel lock bar insert. It does not have that, though I'm not 100% convinced it really needs it. Titanium, especially with the way that Rick Hinderer does his lock geometry, will, for the most part, it's going to lock up exactly. In fact, I've never seen a situation, you know, where a titanium lock face offered by Rick Hinderer was disengaging. I mean, I'm sure there are, just like with any, you know, massive line of knives, there's going to be anomalies, you know, every now and then. But I don't think lock face geometry has ever been an issue with Rick Hinderer. And people are generally, some people absolutely prefer the old titanium to steel contact that was on his old knives. For those people who don't know, titanium has a work hardening effect that allows it to be, you know, allows it to disengage easily, while at the same time, like when you use your finger, at the same time, it's absolutely dependable in a hard use situation. It's very unlikely that a titanium lock face with proper lock face geometry will disengage on accident during use. So that's fine. You don't need an over treble stop because the G10 scale axis that, so that's great. I think the lock bar insert would have just been overkill here. The nice thing about this setup is no matter how hard you squeeze it, you're not forcing this lock bar over and decreasing the life of the lockup. Obviously, over time with any setup like this, steel lock bar insert or not, the more you keep locking this up over 20, 30, 40, 50 years, eventually this thing's going to go all the way to the right and you're going to start having lock rock. That's the case with any liner lock, any frame lock. I don't care what anybody says. Eventually, that'll wear out. It's actually the case with any lock. You know, time will absolutely destroy everything. That's just going to be the case. With a frame lock, the harder you squeeze it, the more you're going to force that lock bar over because this is completely exposed to your hand. So when I push on that, it's going to move it over a little bit. Is that a bad deal? No, actually, in some situations, it might help the lock bar from accidentally disengaging. You know, I mean, a steel lock bar insert surface is going to be a little bit more slippery, so that might help. I kind of like that we've got this overlay here blocking my hand. I trust it enough. I don't think it's going to disengage. This flipper tab, if you're locked in, even if that, for whatever reason, did disengage, this thing is going to have to somehow move your finger out of the way in order for it to, the entire setup, what I'm saying is one that I trust, and there's no way that that's going to disengage unless you're doing something stupid with the knife, like putting the handle in a vise or the blade in the vise and hitting the opposite end with a sledgehammer, which is not something you need a knife for. So it's fine. I absolutely trust it. You do have a modular pocket clip setup. This is right hand only, and there's only one place for the pocket clip, and that's going to be tip up. I think that's appropriate. Hinderer XM18s, both 3-inch and the Eclipse models, and the 3.5-inch XM18 models, and the XM24 models always come stock with the pocket clip up here. I think this is the right position. Hopefully at some point, the one crowd that Hinderer does not completely cater to yet, or this is the left-handed crowd. He offers some scales that have the cuts for the pocket clip to be mounted on the other side, but to my knowledge has never made a production left-handed frame lock model. I would imagine in the future he's going to do that. He doesn't do that currently. Anyways, we've already kind of talked about the pivot there. It is a setup where you either need the spanner tool, which looks like, well, the actual armorer's tool, which you can still find somewhere, or in some places in steel, looks like this. So there's the spanner thing, and it's going to fit on there. And then you also have this head right here. You can take these apart and sort of use one piece on one side and use this on the other. It kind of stinks that, you know, it's a situation where you need a special tool, but you also can just use a penny. In fact, I have a penny that I have used for that. Well, I don't know where it is, but it's basically just a penny with a notch cut in it. And then you can use another penny on this side to turn it. The outside of the penny being copper is much softer than the hardware, and it'll allow you to disassemble your knife without scratching anything for a grand total of 2 cents. So easy. If you want to use an actual spanner bit, you can go buy one at a hardware store for $1.50. So that's, again, not really anything that anybody needs to complain about. Here's my favorite thing about this knife. I can get my entire hand around this knife. I don't have the biggest hands in the world, but my hands are definitely a large size. And up until I experienced this knife, the Para 3 was the smallest knife that I could enjoy because I could get my hand around here and I could choke up. But I thought pretty much any other small knife that I've ever seen, I can't get my hand around. The smallest knife that Hinderer had offered that I actually enjoyed was the half track. Now the reason I eventually let it go is because I just couldn't get my hands all the way around it. I love the half track. I think it's an awesome knife. It's a very robust and built like a tank design for such a small knife, but I just couldn't get my hands all the way around it. I just didn't like that. Is that a deal? Should that be a deal breaker for everybody? No, some people don't care. 3-finger position is something that people, some people just don't care about. Now, Hinderer has the XM18 3-inch model. The reason I've never gone with one of those is because my qualms with how frame locks work and where my hands are and how, how much I would squeeze when I'm using it. The 3-inch model never really appealed to me. Do I think it's a design that is weak? No. I just didn't like, the combination of where the flipper tab was on the 3-inch model, how small it was, it's just not what it doesn't give me that feeling of robust that a normal Hinderer does. Then it came along, the half track, which you talked about. I loved it. It was just too short. Now, this 3-inch model, this is finally a small Hinderer, that I can enjoy. Because for me, it has the robustness. It gives me that feeling of preparedness. Like no matter what it was that I needed to do, I could do it with this knife. The style of lock is set up in a way that it's very easy to deploy, disengage. I can use my thumb. I can play with it a little bit and use my rear finger to do the reverse flick. It's very enjoyable, but it feels like no matter how much I play with it or use it, it's not going to wear down in a way that's not just, not something that I enjoy, something that's unsatisfying. I hope that makes sense, but basically what I'm saying is this is a knife that I would absolutely carry, whether I was at my office job, on an actual outdoor job site, if I was lost in the jungle, if I was, I've never been a soldier, so I can't speak from experience, but I would imagine a soldier would enjoy a knife like this. This is an awesome, awesome design. I feel just as prepared with this thing in my pocket as I do with any of my other large EDCs that I carry. Either these, or you guys have seen my actual rotation. Even the Shaman, that's probably the most robust knife that I carry on a day-to-day basis. And while the Hinderer 3-inch is nowhere near as long, in terms of how robust the blade is, oh yeah. I mean, this is a substantial knife. It manages to be substantial and capable without being completely overkill. There's a lot of different reasons to enjoy this. I mean, this thing, again, coming from a crazy Hinderer fan, is just an A+ all the way around, with my only real complaint being the size of the bit you're going to need to adjust the screws. Now, here's the one thing that's going to kill it for most people. As you can imagine, Hinderers are expensive. They are made entirely in-house in the USA. They are definitely what a lot of people would consider to be the very tippy top of high-end production before you actually cross into mid-tech. There is actual human interaction that goes into the tuning of this knife, the sharpening of this knife. So you could argue that this is a mid-tech. It doesn't matter. This is definitely, in my opinion, Hinderers have always been worth the price that they ask for them. They're $425 at base. The Slippy at base being the least expensive at about $275. This is still an expensive knife. Are they $400 or are they $425? I probably should have known that. Fortunately, we do have the iPad down here, so I'll look that up while I continue to kind of talk. $425 is simply, it's just going to be too much money for most people, and that's fine. You guys don't need me to tell you that that's okay. Everybody has different, ranges that they are, okay with spending, in terms of a pocket knife. If you've been teetering around the $250, $300, $350 mark, and you've been looking at Hinderer knives and you're like, I don't know, are they really that much better? In terms of like those knives that are really high priced, no, I'm wrong actually. I'm looking at the price now. It's $375 for this guy. So if you've spent, let's say you spent $250 to $300, and you're like, if I go up to $375, is there going to be a noticeable difference? I'll tell you this. The tri-way pivot system, which is, as of right now, only offered in Hinderer knives, he came up with it. The ability to be able to switch out your hardware and get whatever you want, phosphor, bronze, nylon, or bearings, is awesome in and of itself. On top of that, the teeny tiny little details, the teeny tiny little quality finishes, the chamfering, all that, everything just being absolutely perfect in terms of fit and finish. By the way, lockup and centering is awesome. That in and of itself is great, but also, just the general versatility. If you have never spent more than $100 on a knife, is jumping up to this going to bring you satisfaction that is equivalent to the amount of money that you paid? I don't know. No, there's nothing that, I feel like, the $150 Ritter Hogue, between the capabilities between these two knives, do I think the Hinderer is more capable? Yes, but it's like I've said in my diminishing returns video. With every dollar that you spend above $150 on an American production knife, the increase in its utility goes down and down and down and down. Is it still, in my opinion, a more capable knife? Yes, but it's one of those things you have to decide for yourself. Now, if you've been spending, $180 on your knives, or what else do I have in here? If you've been spending, gosh dang it, what else do I have? Oh, here we go. Maybe $200, or you've been spending, maybe you just recently bought a Microtech SOCOM Elite, and that ran you $275, $285, and you really, really like that. If you bump up to this, are you going to be satisfied with it? In my opinion, yes. A lot of people have told me that I've turned them on to Hinderer knives because I'm one of the biggest, most obsessive Hinderer fans on YouTube, and that's flattering, but it's not for nothing. I honestly believe, you can look, I've got a lot of videos out. I've handled a lot of knives, not the most, not by a long shot, but I've handled a lot of knives to develop what I consider to be a solid opinion on Hinderer knives, and I've handled enough Hinderer knives to really solidify that opinion even further. Sorry, I'm putting knives away so I don't drop them because I wave my hands around a lot. I think that this is far and away the best small option that Hinderer has ever offered, and I also think it is one of my most recommendable, more hard use oriented, more premium small knives that are out there. These are the only two knives that I can honestly say that I could comfortably EDC on a day-to-day basis and feel completely capable. And when I say small, I mean around the 7-inch mark. I absolutely love the Para 3, and I absolutely love the Hinderer 3-inch. I think this is just incredible. If you guys are wondering whether or not I can recommend this knife, yes, 1,000 times over. Just keep in mind, again, I am kind of biased. I really do like Hinderer knives, but they really do make an awesome product. Scott, thank you so much for letting me take a look at this. This has just been amazing. I'm really infinitely appreciative of that. If you guys enjoyed this video, or at least found it mildly entertaining, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do of course have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, then go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe to my channel, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.